2 weekends ago, members of OBU's backpacking class got prepped and ready to go for their weekend trip that was required for the class. Once we were all packed and ready to go, the leader of the group, Mr. Shane Seaton, went over the do's and don'ts of the trip and handed out roles for each one of the students. Once that was finished, we loaded everything into the van and started on our 1.5 hour journey to our destination. Once we arrived to our destination, we unloaded everyone's backpacks and made sure that everyone's fit themselves accordingly. Once we got all of that out of the way, we started on our journey. The students were told that part of the trip would have a bit of an incline, but we never thought it would have been as bad as it was. Basically, we were climbing up the side of a mountain. Eventually, we made it to our destination at the end of the mountain and decided we should set up camp for the night. Once we had everything set up for the night, we decided to cook up some dinner. For the first night meal, we had the option between potato and Mexican soup. Both of these options were very delicious, and everyone had enough to make themselves full. Once we cleaned up, we sat around the fire till it was time to rest and prepare for the next day. The next morning, we all woke up at around 9 a.m. We decided to have a light breakfast that consisted of oatmeal, Pop-Tarts, and granola bars. The beginning of this part of the hike was very similar to the entirety of the first day hike, which was miserable. After about 30 minutes of climbing uphill, we got to take a rest at the top of the mountain. Another positive from this stop is that we were blessed with one of the most beautiful views in the state of Arkansas. I mean, come on, look at this view. After that stop, we continued on our hike. After hiking for another 2 hours, the class decided it would be a good idea to stop for a lunch break. We had a simple lunch as we had many sandwiches consisting of sausage, American cheese, and Ritz crackers. After eating, we hung out for a little bit and then decided that we should start heading on our way. After a long and strenuous day, the class decided to set up camp in a valley right beside the river. On the menu for dinner that night, the class had some stuffing with some chicken in it. It was actually surprisingly really good. After the meal, we decided to call it in early, that way we could be prepped for our final day. We started off our final day of hiking with some grits for breakfast. Once we finished eating, we had a quick rock skipping contest between the class. Mr. Seaton won, of course, because, I mean, come on, look at that throw. I was one of the people put in charge of leading the group for the day. This was a mistake on Mr. Seaton's part, as I did get the group lost a couple of times. But nonetheless, we did make some progress and we had a really great time. We did run into a difficult spot as we had to cross a part of the river that did have some rapid running water. Fortunately, we were able to make it across safely over and continue on the rest of our hike. After about an hour and a half of hiking, we finally saw the parking lot sign indicating we were close. We of course speed walked the rest of the way until we finally made it back to the parking lot. After a quick little break, we finally made our way home. After another an hour and a half drive, we started to unload the van of all the things we brought for the trip. This took a while as instead of packing everything, we had to unpack everything and make sure everything could air dry. Once we completed that, we were good to head home and finally take a shower. Overall, this was a very fun trip and I hope to take another one soon.